Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. This is my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, November 15th, 2021. Case file number 381, written by Deku Dynamite. Memories of a troubled safe haven teen that never stayed with them. Walked into my best friend's house in 2001, 8th grade. She was getting ready in the bathroom. I was chatting her up. I took a few steps into the hallway to look into the living room. I thought I heard her mom or something. There, I see a young woman sitting on the couch. I knew her, Riley. She lived in a different state and did drugs with my cousin, but had no relation to my best friend or her family. My brain wouldn't compute. I pull my best friend into the hallway and point. She sees her too. I said, I know her. Her name is Riley. I didn't mention the drugs because I'm sure this chick can hear me. Riley waves and smiles. She embodies mischief. Bestie confirms. Nope, never seen her before. Why the hell is she on the couch? My friend and I disappear in the opposite direction, looking for her mom. Why didn't we approach Riley instead? Riley was creepy. When she looked at you, it was like she wanted to eat you or devour your soul. Terrifying. Might have been the drugs. We find her mom outside. She tells us, she's having problems at home. I'm not telling you anything more. You girls be nice. Make her feel at home. Riley stays there for a month or two. My best friend's mom sometimes housed victims of abuse through a non-profit. She was the newest safe haven for Riley. Fast forward 10-ish years. My best friend and I are going to visit my cousin. Guess who we see? Creepy McCreepy. Riley says she hasn't seen me since I was a small child. I give her a puzzled look. Maybe she wanted to keep the home abuse a secret. Forget it all. She acts like she has never met my best friend. Okay, so maybe nobody in her life knows about this trip to a safe house for a month. Gotcha. We're all clued in. Later, Riley and I end up alone on the outdoor deck. She says something like, I can't believe I haven't seen you since you were 5 years old, and a few other curiosities. I didn't intend to comment on anything, but like word vomit, it just came out. Do you really not remember seeing me? After explaining everything, the safe house, her month stay, etc. During those months, we talked about my cousin, their drug use, her family. She looked effing baffled. I told her if she didn't believe me, we could grab my bestie and get her side of it. She agrees. Bestie comes out. Riley is now so perplexed that she's not even talking. Then it's denial. She says she must have had a doppelganger or a twin. We say no, you talked about my cousin, you're home, nothing was different. Now we're getting concerned we're going to bring up repressed memories or crap. I'm trying to leave it alone, change the subject. Nope. Dog meets bone. She starts asking us what this year was, what month, says she can prove it wasn't her. Riley calls my cousin out and asks him what grade they were in when they went to Yellowstone for 2 weeks. Through photos and 3 hours of sleuthing. Indeed, Riley was in Yellowstone with my cousin the same time she was at the safe house. Info suggests July 20th-ish. Riley feels vindicated, like, see, I told you it wasn't me. My best friend and I are beyond horrified. There are only 3 options. We got the dates wrong, or drugs riddled this chick's brain, or she really wanted to keep it a secret and we just effed it up big time. A few months later, Bestie calls me for our nightly chats. Something like, I talked to my mom. She remembers Riley. She remembers she was weird and she was the most stressful safe haven they ever had. They called her Sticky Fingers. My bestie asked about the dates her mom thought she stayed with us. Same time frame as Riley's Yellowstone trip with my cousin. Middle of July to middle of August 2001. Years passed. We left it alone. Obviously, we had gotten dates wrong. Something. Fine. I'm pragmatic. I'll admit when I'm wrong. Riley shoots me a Facebook message. Our first conversation ever. Look what I found. She and my cousin had a photo of them at Cook City entrance, with a firefighter who had been battling a fire for a week or so that summer. The date was in the photo. July 31st, 2001. Middle of their trip to Yellowstone. My bestie's birthday is August 2nd. Riley was there for that party. She sat in the kitchen. She ate the cake. Impossible. Still don't know what happened. I've completely given up on trying to figure it out. But still, it's a good story. Thought I would share. Edit. To answer why it couldn't be a doppelganger. When Riley stayed there, we did hang out like once or twice a week, at the behest of my bestie's mother. We talked about my cousin. Riley talked about how his parents, my aunt and uncle, were so stupid for not picking up on why he had a mirror table. For blow. He still has that table. I wouldn't have known about the table beforehand if it wasn't for her. The things we talked about were memories from when my cousin was younger and had a goth phase. Case file number 382, written by Fortitude 777. Creepy Barry is in more places than one. My best friend's dad is named Barry. I'd love to give him a pseudonym, but the truth is, his name is Barry and it just works. Barry is a simple man. He likes his booze, his animals, and the cabin. He loves to goof around and he's got a heart of gold. My friend came to me one day and expressed that sometimes she would see her dad walking around the house only for him to actually be on the couch asleep. For those of you familiar with astral travel, we, or at least I, believe he was unconsciously doing this, but it was still hard to believe. I honestly believe she was hallucinating and going crazy. We were attached at the hip, so this is standard, but I was at her house while she nor her dad were home. He actually may have been picking her up. Her bedroom had a sliding door. I watched it slide open, and her dad was staring at me. Then he walked away. "Barry?" I said. I walked to the couch. He wasn't there. I looked outside and his truck was gone. He wasn't home. Impossible. This happened another time during the night, while we were in a different room. I walked out to find him asleep on the couch. My friend testifies and swears up and down she's seen the same. Plus, one time, she saw him in a cape dancing. Anyway, that's Creepy Barry. The real Barry is just a good guy. I tried to tell this story at school as a teen and almost got Child Protective Services called on me. Case file number 383, written by K.N. Den. When the poles mysteriously align. Last weekend, my coworker and I were setting up for a big event. We were setting up a photo booth area with a green screen. I was reading the labels and connecting the poles for the green screen stand. There were 2 middle poles that connected, and 2 outside poles that connected to either side of the middle poles. The 2 middle poles connected no problem, but when it came to connecting the outside poles, we ran into the same problem. The ends didn't match. I tried to connect the pole to side A, but it didn't fit, so I flipped the pole and tried to connect to side B, with no luck. I watched my coworker attempt the same thing, trying one side, then the other, with the same results. I told her to check the bag for more poles while I held on to my pole and the middle pole. There were no more poles in the bag, so I tried again with almost 100% confidence that it wasn't going to work. That's when the end of my pole slides and clicks into place. I watched my coworker do the same thing. Just a few seconds before that, the poles did not match and the ends had looked completely different. But suddenly they matched perfectly. I looked at my coworker and she looked at me and said, "That just happened, right?" I was seriously shaken after that. I think if I had been alone, I would have shaken it off as not paying attention, but the fact that my coworker and I saw it happen at the same time freaked me out a bit. Luckily, I haven't experienced any more glitches since. My coworker, on the other hand, said she had a few more weird experiences since then. Case notes, file number 383. There's something curious in this small glitch, in that it's a small moment, but I think it had to happen. You had to be able to set those poles up. I wonder if there was a manufacturing glitch, like a real mundane problem in how the poles were made, or maybe you didn't receive the correct ones in the package. But then the server programmers decided, hey, this isn't right, this has to happen, this event has to happen. So they reconfigured the ends of the poles to match correctly. And if that's the case, I wonder how many other things are being controlled. I do think we have free will, but everything else around us might just be fair game. Just a thought. Case file number 384, written by No Manager 342. A radio signal to confirm a time tunnel. This happened in the mid-2000s. My husband had bought a used pickup truck that had been worked on and souped up, as the saying goes. We called it his race truck. By all appearances, it seemed to be a normal truck. It ran fast, and I'm pretty sure we drove it for a while before noticing an odd occurrence. At this point in time, every morning during the week, my husband and I drove together to a place halfway between our jobs where I would pick up a car at a friend's business and head east, while he continued north. It saved on gas. Most of our commute together was on the interstate. There was one spot in particular where something very strange happened every morning around 6 a.m. We listened to talk radio during the ride, and several miles past a way station for tractor trailers, the radio would develop static and fuzz out. When it came back on, the previous minute of the broadcast we had just been listening to would play all over again. Then the broadcast would continue as normal. The first time it happened, we didn't think much of it. Just a crazy blip in the radio signal, right? Then it happened again the next day, and the next, and on and on. Every morning, the static, and then the previous 60 seconds would play all over again. We thought it must be the radio station having issues. After a while though, it went from being a curiosity to a downright annoyance. It was like having to do over a whole minute every day. We could not find a rational explanation either, but it was somehow tied to that truck. If memory serves correctly, I think it did happen with another radio station one time. However, it did not happen in any other vehicles or near any other way stations. It continued to occur like clockwork for as long as my husband owned the truck, but after he sold it, we never experienced the repeating minute again. That particular stretch of interstate does seem to possess some kind of time anomaly. It's like an inverse of Einstein's theory. For about a 25-mile stretch, which includes the way station, I have noticed the faster I drive, the longer it takes to reach my destination. Conversely, the slower I drive, I make it with time to spare. I have monitored the clock against my speedometer, and even allowing for morning traffic, this still bears out. My husband and I call it the time tunnel, and I have been on time for work many mornings, thanks to this anomaly. Past that 25-mile range, however, it's back to ordinary laws of physics, so you better step on it. Case file number 385, written by PM Puns and Sea Shanties. When you plant bell peppers but receive melons? A few sprinkled weeks ago, I was cutting bell peppers for dinner. My 12-year-old asked if he could plant the seeds because the gardens were empty, awaiting fall planting. I gave permission for him to use the bed on the right, and watched him plant them right away. I thought about how bell peppers weren't part of my plan, but it's okay. I'm tardy on planting anyway. So the weeks pass and the seeds grow. Cool. Last week I finally got around to ordering the seeds for fall planting. But it's weird. I didn't think bell peppers grow a vine. A vine is slowly taking over the right and left beds. It has curly tendrils that reach to grab onto things. It has yellow flowers. I'm very confused. Then last night I went to tell my 12-year-old to go look at his bell peppers because there might be some fruit by now. We go together and discover melons? What? There are cantaloupes growing in my garden. We don't throw garden seeds in there willy-nilly. I carefully plan the beds. I watched him plant the bell peppers. We don't even buy cantaloupes more than once or twice a year, and I usually buy them already cut. There's enough plants that it couldn't have been an accident. Right where he planted the bell pepper seeds, moments after I cut them open, are melons. So I have no idea. Here's a couple of extra points. I live in the desert. There's no squirrels here. There's a few birds and certainly not a ton of other gardeners. I don't compost. The soil is old, several seasons, and I carefully plan it out so there's little room for a volunteer. Case notes, file number 385. It's not quantum immortality because your son still remembers planting bell peppers, so there is some anomaly happening in your original universe. You didn't cross over to anywhere. And it's not something that happens often. I mean, I've never even heard of this happening to a farmer, and they plant thousands and thousands of seeds, millions even. If this was a common glitch, you'd hear it more often. Even from amateur gardeners, I don't hear it at all. My mom has a garden herself, and this has never happened. And I have to say, although I like bell peppers, cantaloupes are just superior. They are the best fruit. Maybe watermelons are a close second. Case file number 386, written by Scatall, 92. The weirdest neighborhood you've ever seen. So I moved here around 7 months ago. My house is in a square with 8 other houses all facing towards a small patch of grass at the front. The first day we got the keys, we met our next door neighbor, Janet. She was standing outside her front door when we walked up to the house, almost like she was waiting for us. I see Janet a lot and speak with her often. I'm sure she is a real person. I've even met her adult daughter, and I've seen Janet around the local area. A few days after moving in, a courier knocked and asked if I would take a parcel for the people on the other side of the square. I thought it was strange that he had knocked on my door rather than someone closer, but I obliged. A man came a few hours later and asked if I had a package for house number. I gave him the package, and the man introduced himself as Mark. I haven't seen him since that day. Other than those already discussed, I have never seen another person on the square, even my next door neighbor on the other side. I have heard noises from them, but I have never physically seen them. I am home 6 days per week, and my husband is home the other day. Neither of us has ever seen anyone. I can see all of their front doors from my house. A week ago, I was chatting with Janet. I asked her how long she had lived here. She said 24 years. This is definitely true because I have at least one mutual acquaintance with her, and they have verified this. I asked her if she knew any of the neighbors. She said she didn't know any of the neighbors at all. Janet is a very friendly and warm person, and she is very chatty, so it just doesn't make sense for her to not know any of our neighbors, at least casually. You might be thinking that all the houses are empty. This is not the case. The hedges at the front of the houses are all maintained. The windows are clean. The flower beds are looked after. Then yesterday, I saw a man on the grass. He was in the middle of the green, carrying a laptop bag. I watched him walk into one of the houses. Then an hour later, I saw him again, still carrying a laptop bag. I saw him in the middle of the green and watched him walk into the same house. It really felt like a glitch. It was the exact same sequence, twice. Tonight will be Halloween. I was hoping to take my kids around the square trick-or-treating and also use this as a way to see if any of my neighbors exist. Not one house has a pumpkin or any decorations, which means it would be rude to knock on the doors tonight. I'm honestly starting to feel crazy. Edit. Tuesday night we put our bins out from 6 p.m. onwards. I'm going to stake out. I'll let you know what happens. Update. So tonight I built a blanket fort in the toddler's bedroom and we watched movies. Their room overlooks the green. I sat by the window and watched out for my neighbors to put out their bins. And sure enough, they exist. I saw a laptop bag guy, an old woman, a woman coming out of the house where Mark lives. Maybe a wife? I didn't see anyone else, but now at least I know I do have neighbors. I will definitely be writing them all Christmas cards this year. I do wonder though, why did the laptop bag man repeat? Case file number 387. Written by Star Gentle, a onesie glitch. Last year, I bought a skeleton onesie that glows in the dark. I wore it to my friends yesterday, and she loved it and wanted one to wear to her work on Friday. We called the store where I got it to see if they had them this year. Yes, they said, only one left, size small. It was just returned. We get in the car and drive 40 minutes, since my friend lives out in the countryside. Arriving at the store, we immediately hit the onesie section. A peach, a devil, a sloth. No skeleton. We asked the desk, and yes, they have the one in small size there. They won't let her try it on due to restrictions. The one I'm wearing is also size small. My friend has the great idea to go try on mine in the bathroom. So we go to the mall and find the bathroom. She tries it on, and while tight and the hood couldn't zip up comfortably, she's optimistic she can make it work. Back to the store. My friend goes right to the onesie rack and holds up a pristinely folded, brand new, size large skeleton onesie. I know this is subtle and easily written off for some, but we had thoroughly searched the area. The employees had also looked for us earlier. It's unlikely someone was carrying it around with them for an hour. Case file number 388, written by Not Your Mama. Can you imagine the horror of a Fudgesicle disappearing? Okay, this has bothered me for years. My family was moving out of our home. My middle son was starting college, and my husband had to start a new job. I stayed at our home with our 12-year-old daughter. I was waiting for movers, and then we were getting on the road ourselves. On the first day the mover came, I asked them to leave one mattress and said I would pack the small TV in my car. So they have packed up about 85% of the house. All that is left in my bedroom is the mattress, and they are going to get that the next day, a blanket, and the TV. I need to clean out the fridge, so I asked my daughter if she wants the last Fudgesicle. She is sitting on the mattress near the wall, and I toss it to her. So the Fudgesicle bounces off her hands and hits the wall. We both see this and look at the floor. We logically know that the Fudgesicle must be there, except it isn't. I move the mattress. I even go grab a book and toss it to her, hoping to recreate the path this dessert has taken. We are both losing our minds. The furniture is gone, so it cannot be hiding. Also, it's a frozen chocolate Fudgesicle, and I have a light carpet that I have to shampoo tomorrow before we pull up the stakes and move. We never found it. The movers came, I cleaned all the carpets, did a walkthrough with the agency that was going to rent out this house for us. Still, no Fudgesicle, no stain to clean up, no wrapper, no stick, no nothing. My daughter, now 20, recalls this very clearly and has brought it up as the weirdest thing to have ever happened to her. We still have no idea how or why. I'm pretty sure my daughter in an alternate dimension has a story about how I had nothing in my hand and a Fudgesicle landed on her. Case notes, file number 388. Oh, so another classic disappearing object phenomena. The only glitch I've experienced, twice now, but this time with food. And that actually terrifies me, because if food starts disappearing, well, we're in trouble, aren't we? And this is such an awesome version of it because, as you say, it's a Fudgesicle. If someone would just say, well, okay, nothing's really disappearing, it's just that things are bouncing away, like under something that you just didn't check. Well, in this case, you were moving, so literally everything was taken out, and there was no place for anything to hide to have bounced off to into a deep dark crevice. And even if that was the case, it would have melted. You would have seen a puddle of chocolate deliciousness somewhere, but there just wasn't anything. No stain on the carpet, as you say, no nothing. The only place he could have gone is wherever things go when they disappear. Case file number 389, written by Potty Animal. UFO strips near an Air Force base. My father had a sighting of a large, bright, round light in the sky south of Kansas City in the vicinity of Richards-Gebar Air Force Base. He was driving to his job at a grocery store when he saw it and thought, must be the moon. But when he came to a clearing and could see it better, he saw that it was at least twice as big as the biggest full moon he'd ever seen. He pulled over to look at it and watched it as it slowly erased from the bottom. He says that it looked like perfect horizontal strips were being removed from it, like being erased from a chalkboard. It took about 5 minutes for it to disappear. He told a friend at work about the sighting, but didn't think much of it until a week later when 2 nurses called in to his favorite radio talk show, The Mike Murphy Show, a great morning talk show at the time. Mike was a big UFO/paranormal fan and reported seeing the same thing. This was in the late 80s or early 90s. He's told the story many times over the years and still doesn't know what he saw. He is 82 now and still wishes he could find out. Does anyone have any idea what it could have been? He insists it wasn't the moon. I've tried to Google it a few times, but it's hard to describe in a search engine. Case notes, file number 389. So I would say, okay, I love aliens. I love the idea of aliens. But this doesn't mean that every UFO is an alien spacecraft. They're just unidentified flying objects. It could simply be that this was some sort of military test. And I think often that is the case. Not always, but I think often. And it makes sense too, because often these UFOs are reported near Air Force bases. They probably are secret military deployments of advanced technology. Case file number 390, written by Shadows That Bind. Elevators out of place, dates that don't bind, and cancer that just vanishes. There are 2 events that I can't shake. I apologize in advance if this bores anyone, but I don't think it will. The first, if you look at my post history, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer early in the year. I asked for a second opinion from the UCSF, and soon after, a friend recommended juicing and visualization. I rolled with it, but every time I practiced my visualization, I couldn't stop picturing doctor after doctor coming into the room, amazed at the little lump having disappeared. The thought of something that serious just vanishing, and several doctors at a busy facility running in to see the freak show, seemed too absurd for me to entertain. Flash forward to the day of my second biopsy, and that's exactly what happened. Except, while it's incredibly rare, a small percentage of people experience an obliteration of the nodule after a biopsy. So while that threw me off, it was the experience in the elevator that still has me perplexed. I entered one directly across from the front desk. It got stuck between floors, and when it started up again, it was now down the hall and to the left. The second, I have kept journals since childhood. Currently, they are kept in a locked chest and in a locked room. They never leave that room, and they certainly have never been held by anyone else. Going back through some a few weeks ago, I found that an entry had a different date next to it. That's not my handwriting. The date I wrote is circled. The other is not my handwriting. I know my handwriting. I have a carbon monoxide detector too. I don't drink or do drugs, and I don't have DID. When I look at my Google Calendar, the date written is the only date that's blank. Bonus file, written by Pokes a Little Cat. The strangest questions from a little child. So last night, I was taking my 5-year-old son to a trick-or-treat at a church. There really isn't much to do in this town. We had been arguing about music. "Mommy, are murderers real?" he asked out of nowhere. "Yes, baby. Sometimes people kill other people." "Will I get murdered?" he asked sadly. "No, baby. It's my job to keep you safe. I thought this would be the end of it. It wasn't." "But what if you get shot in the belly?" he asked specifically. "Mommy's belly is pretty big. I would have to go to the hospital, but I'd probably be fine." "But what if you shot the gun, that's really a cannon, and turn your belly to fire? You probably wouldn't be fine." We don't have those here." I thought that would be the end of it. "Mommy, do they have murderers in the desert?" he then asked. "Yes, they have murderers in the desert." "Oh." He got quiet. "The last time I got murdered, I was really in the mountains high above the desert. I had a gun that was really a cannon, but it broke and fell apart. It just fell apart and I couldn't get it back together. That's when I got murdered. It would be sad if I got murdered again." Okay. I then turned on Lizzo, which is his favorite. He was pretty quiet for the rest of the ride. We live in the deep south USA. He has never been to a desert. Bonus file, written by Mysterious Front 233. When a ghost isn't sure how she feels about you. About a month ago, my boyfriend and I traveled back to his home country to visit family and friends for the first time since the pandemic hit. We stayed with his father, who had cared for his mother and stepfather in their apartment until their fairly recent passing, and we stayed in Grandma's room. This all happened on the first days of our trip. As soon as I started unpacking into the closet and drawer, I felt this very angry energy. I assumed she was confused as to who I was. We'd only met a couple times while she was alive, and her mind was not all there when we did meet. But she quite liked me then. Anyways, after I unpacked, I tried to get my boyfriend to also unpack, hoping that would ease the anxiety of the ghost that was very unhappy with my presence in her living space. But before he could unpack, as we were relaxing in the room, feeling jet-lagged, the bar that holds the hangers in the closet suddenly falls and crashes to the floor. My boyfriend fixes it. He doesn't believe in ghosts or anything, so I don't tell him my suspicions, but even he's weirded out by what happened. Later, when picking out clothes for our night out, I end up grabbing a clump of what I can only assume was her hair in the drawer. Very gross. Super did not like that. During the night as we were sleeping, the alarm clock on my nightstand starts going off at like 3 a.m. Now, there is no good reason an alarm should be set for that time, so it was definitely an assault on my sleep schedule. Also that night, I had some sleep terrors. I kept seeing/feeling someone standing at the end corner of our bed, staring at us. In the morning, the closet falls again, but I go about my day normally, trying not to acknowledge the presence. I interacted with my boyfriend's dad, played with the dog, which was her dog, and throughout the day, I felt the energy relax. There wasn't an angry voice in my ear anymore. At the end of the day, I found an earring next to my bed, where the night terror figure had been the night before. I took the earring and placed it on the nightstand. It was probably a peace offering, and I was happy to see it. I didn't take the earring or wear it or anything, but I made sure it stayed on the night table the whole trip. Nothing happened after those 2 days, but it's definitely the closest I've ever come to an actual physical ghostly experience. Case file number 391, written by Slide Cancels. When a YouTuber randomly yells, "Wake up." I feel like this is gonna sound insane, but I've been thinking about this for 2 days now, and I feel like I have to post this to see if anyone possibly has an explanation. 2 nights ago, me and my girlfriend were laying in bed with YouTube on the TV in the bedroom. I watched it while she sat on her phone or read. I have the YouTube autoplay feature on, so when one video ends, it just immediately plays the next one. I was watching a ton of Nick Merckx videos that night. For those who don't know, Nick Merckx is a gaming streamer / YouTuber. So I end up falling asleep while the videos are playing, and the TV is on lower than half volume, because it's late and was pretty much just background noise, honestly. I don't know how long exactly I was asleep, but it couldn't have been very long, because my girlfriend was still awake reading when this happened. But as I'm asleep, I hear clear as day, and extremely loudly, Nick Merckx himself go, "Wake up," in the most stern, bone-chilling tone. The only way I've ever heard someone else say this in this way is in Spider-Man Far From Home, when Mysterio and Spider-Man are fighting, and Mysterio goes, "It's time to wake up," to him. That's the only thing I can compare it to. I jerked awake and was facing the TV, and I swear to God for a split second I saw Nick Merckx's face in full screen staring straight into the camera, and then it immediately went back into gameplay with him talking to his teammates and stuff like nothing was happening. I looked over at my girlfriend and she was staring at the TV with a shocked look on her face. I asked her, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "Yeah," and sounded scared. I picked up the remote and rewinded a full minute in the video, and we both sat and watched it through, and it did not happen again in the video. He never once screams, "Wake up," nor does he go full face cam in the video. He only ever does full face cam in the intros, and he hasn't even been doing intros lately, so there's literally no full face cam at all in this video. I have no clue what happened. Can someone explain this? Edit. I appreciate all your jokes. Having people be able to not only relate to this, but make jokes about it is soothing in a way. A few points. 1. Did I get confirmation the next day from my girlfriend, or just when I woke up? After this happened, I didn't fall asleep for a while, and we stayed up together, freaked out for about an hour and a half, talking about what the hell just happened. As well as the next night, we both said we should just keep the TV off when going to bed. So yes, she definitely experienced it, and it was confirmed many times that night, as well as the next day. 2. Is it possible it was an ad? No, I have YouTube Red specifically because I watch YouTube on my TV every night, and the ads, especially mid-rolls, are extremely annoying, so I never get ads on YouTube because of that. 3. Could someone have cast onto the TV with their phone, or something like that? If it's possible to cast onto an Amazon Fire Stick, then possibly. But I have now talked to everyone that lives in my house since this happened about this experience, and all of them said they don't cast the TVs ever. So if it did happen, it would have had to be a random person like a neighbor. Although my neighbors are far away as we live in a wooded area where the houses are really spread out. I'm not saying it's 100% impossible, but given all the variables I've listed and the fact that it was Nick Merckx himself yelling from the TV, I feel like the chances of this are just extremely slim. 4. Did my girlfriend see it? I have asked her if she saw it, and she says she didn't, but I feel like I need to emphasize some details here because I wrote this post very poorly before. When I say it was loud when he yelled, I mean it was loud, as if my soundbar had gone up to max volume and then immediately back down to below half volume. Also, no, it was not me who yelled it in my sleep. Me and my girlfriend have talked about this a lot, as I said previously, and she knows it was the TV. She knows what Nick Merckx sounds like, and she said when it happened, she instantly thought it was the TV as well. There's no way it was me. 5. Do I have any other weird stuff happen around my house? Not a lot, honestly. My sister watched her closet doorknob twist back and forth once, and when she finally opened the door, there was no one in there. I feel like sometimes I can hear someone whisper in my ear, but I never really care because I feel like everyone has stories about, I swear someone just said my name, so I kinda blow it off. The only big thing, really, is as I was eating dinner with my family at the kitchen table, and from where my chair is, I can see straight ahead of me through a giant window that looks out to our backyard that is pretty big. And I swear I saw a white man in a white t-shirt and blue jeans walk through our backyard, walk behind a tree, and then was just gone. I went, "Who the hell is that?" And everyone looked out the window and my dad went, "Oh crap," and ran and grabbed his gun while we all kept watching the tree he went behind. When we went outside and looked, there was no one there. When my dad came back in, I asked him why he reacted like that because he is a very chill person who never overreacts about stuff. And he responded with, "I saw him too. He went behind the tree, right?" I said yes, and he just looked spooked and didn't say anything else about it. Case file number 392, written by Stalked Throwaway 2020. Phone disappears and then returns. Lost my old phone, which was my work phone. I do work on ladders and break phones often, so having a spare phone to use for work was amazing when I got my new phone, on December 1st, 2020. We ripped apart the entire house. The couch crevices are all open and go into the hole under the footrest, which pop out and can easily be seen and checked fully. They have been cleaned, checked, and cleaned again dozens of times since then, and they are not deep, so you can feel all the way through with little hands like mine. So we spent months looking for this stupid extra phone and never found a trace of it. Today, Halloween, my new phone goes missing too. I knew it was in the house, but had little idea where. My husband jokes that it would be scary to find my old, missing phone. As he said this, I reached into the side of my normal spot on the couch and found my old freaking phone. It was less than an inch from the edge of the couch on the inside. My husband is just as freaked out as me, and we are not prank people. Posted this in a different sub, and people just said, "Oh, it's a prank." I know it's not, and if it was, who the hell waits almost an entire year for that? No one else has access to my house. My husband did not do it. So, mind blown. I can't even. Case notes, file number 392. So, I will say this, I do think it's a prank. And I think it's a prank by whatever controls where objects are disappearing to. Because I think that while the disappearances are mostly random and accidental, probably actual glitches in the matrix, the code of the server we're running on, or the elves or whatever creatures are building each minute like in Twilight Zone. Whoever controls that, I think, are responsible entirely for them coming back. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as your husband said, "Oh, what if you find that old phone?" That's exactly what you did, in exactly that moment. No, that's not a coincidence I'll believe in. No. Some will, some force, decided now's the time to return it. Just to freak you guys out. Case file number 393, written by Vezdez90. We've all experienced time loss on the road, but this is on another level entirely. So this happened earlier today, and I'm still trying to process it, as it makes zero sense. A friend of mine and I traveled together between two towns earlier today. We agreed he'd pick me up at 8 p.m. We were both on time, and he made a joke about how we were both very punctual, because that's not usually the case when we're meeting. We got in the car, and he showed that his car had gas for exactly 681 kilometers more. A joke about our country being formed in the year 681. Which will be important later on. So we drove off pretty much immediately on what is usually 1 hour 45 minutes to 2 hours drive journey. We were expecting to arrive at roughly 10 p.m. The journey itself was on a road we've both traveled hundreds of times, so we know it very well. It's only 95 kilometers, but the road is through the mountain, so you can't really drive fast, and that's why it usually takes at least an hour and a half at the very minimum. There wasn't a lot of traffic in our direction, so we had a relaxed time chatting and driving. Also, my friend is usually a pretty slow driver, and his car isn't all that powerful. He was pretty much driving how he always does. There wasn't a single time I thought he was speeding or anything, and his driving was never brought into the conversation because of how routine everything felt. Nothing really special happened during the drive up until we arrived at the destination town, and my friend said it felt like that was the quickest journey he's had on that road ever in his life. I felt the same way, and so we checked the clock, and it was showing 8:45. Only 45 minutes had passed somehow. We were both really baffled because that's just not possible. I've been in cars speeding like hell on that road, and they never even come close to a time like that, let alone with my friend slow driving. What also adds to the mystery is now his car is showing it has enough gas to go for another 652 kilometers. Like we've only traveled for 30 kilometers. I know it's a moving metric based on how you drive, but this isn't making any sense considering how consistent he is in his driving style. He also called his grandmother to tell her we've arrived, who he had just seen before we left, and she thought he was lying to her because only 45 minutes had passed and we couldn't have possibly arrived yet. Still not sure what to do after these bizarre events.